welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com Broiler Chicken Show. Trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich. Hello, everyone. Welcome to As the Stomach Churns. The world is a soap opera. I think I can hear my voice somewhere. Isn't that weird? Just seeing if we have the YouTube page up and running. Anyway, welcome back to the Broiler Chicken Show. Bark, bark, bark. Yeah, looks like there's a few people there. Hey, I like to see that. We got 7 viewers and 8 likes. Now, those are numbers I can live with. Actually, I see Zug is here with me in the Zoom call along with Chris. Of course, Chris, absolute stalwart. Couldn't do any of this without Chris. Thank you so much for being in my life, Chris. I really appreciate you. Appreciate you. Appreciate it. Appreciate everything. Appreciate the do-rag. Appreciate the chicanery.
Right back at you. Glad to be here.
Look, we taught Chris a new word today. Never heard the word before, chicanery before. Anyway, having fun. Speaking of Zug, we had actually a really great daily brief after party on Friday with Zug's dad, Mike. I think we almost got Zug into trouble trying to explain what Zugi actually meant, what the name was. I was like, you know what? This is a rabbit hole we probably should not go down with his dad. Anyway, having fun at TRI. It was a great conversation about artificial intelligence and where we're going in the future. And I get the impression from him, which kind of makes sense, that, it seems, there are people in this world that have agendas, and it's in their best interest to promote certain agendas and certain messaging and certain narratives. And there are people, of course, there's one gentleman who poked his nose into the crypto space a few years ago and pissed off a lot of people. You all know who I'm talking about. And I'm sure he's not done. He'll be back. But I'm exceedingly disappointed with this person because, through the whole sort of building out his electric car company, he kept pushing the narrative, global climate crisis and all that crap. And then all of a sudden, after all of that's done and he's made his billions of dollars and he's thinking about new projects, he's interviewed and says, well, actually, climate's not really that big of an issue. Give me a break. So it's interesting to listen to this one gentleman's narrative of late, sounding alarm bells when the gentleman that we had on the call on Friday actually was kind of like, man, you know what, let's just take it down a notch. And let's try and examine what's really going on here and what is the evolutionary process of all this, and where are we? Are we actually at the state of Terminators and taking over the world? And I think he was a bit skeptical of that. So it was a very refreshing conversation, I'll tell you that much. Very refreshing to hear a very real take on the industry. So thank you very much, Mike. I don't know whether you're going to listen to this or not, but Zug, if you could pass on the sentiments to Dad. I thought that was great stuff that we did on Friday. Really, really good conversations. And actually, FYI, he's really big on the idea that ChatGPT now has a voice interface, which is going to make probably the process of interacting with artificial intelligence, whatever you want to define that as, probably a lot easier for us humans, and we'll probably be able to interact with them a lot easier. So yeah, so the feedback I see there over on YouTube was it was a very good broadcast. So glad you like that, Nuri. Hello, David. Nice to see you. Nick says, was a great chat. I'm positive about AI now. Indeed. Yeah, Nico. Yeah, that jerk. Mind you, I mean, the irony of it all is that I made great money on that damn coin. I felt really badly watching all of this stupid public all piling in at 75 cents on that thing and just getting suckered. Like I couldn't believe how cliche this sucker was. I even saw the Prince of Nigeria was in there shilling it when he was on Saturday Night Live. Just terrible, like absolutely unconscionable. So I do not think that that gentleman, I won't name names, but I do not think that that gentleman even gives a rat's ass about anybody in the public. Really, I don't think he gives a rat's ass about anybody other than himself. And I even heard that he's even denying his wife access to his kids, which is a bit twisted. But anyway, um, let's see. Is this war? Yeah, well, and I suppose our newsletter today, the write-up that Chris and I did, and again, big thanks to Chris, couldn't pull this off without him. He and I just sort of diligently worked through and put together a nice little summary of sort of what we've seen over the past week or so in the market. And we even sort of left off this commentary, given the semi-holiday status of Monday. It's a bank holiday down in the States. I think it used to be called Columbus Day. I have no idea what the woke generation. I would imagine once we get through all this woke stupidness, we'll probably revert right back to all of our old norms. But anyway, it's called Columbus Day for the longest time down in the States. And here in Canada, it's actually Canadian Thanksgiving. So I have to try and figure out how I can give Liam a half decent Thanksgiving. I'm still not quite sure how we're going to pull this off. So once I'm done this video, of course, you know where I'm off to. And of course, your prayers and thoughts and best wishes for Liam and I always appreciated. Unfortunately, he is going through a bit of a tough time right at the moment, but that usually happens through these seasonal transition windows. But given the semi-holiday status of Monday, which is kind of a weird day anyway, and the considerable geopolitical tensions, a little bit of a curveball thrown into the world. But, I hate to say it. And of course, you always get into trouble when you weigh in on these things. But, in the lounge, when we sort of course, at TRI, we're chit-chatting about, world events and all that kind of fun stuff. But, reading through some of the articles, especially, and I don't know whether they're biased or not, but this one, I don't know who these people are. They might be a right think tank. They might be a left think tank. It's just sort of reading through sort of the background story. You got to admit, if you actually read this, like this Smotrich and the leader of the religious Zionist party, obviously I posted in the lounge, so any TRI members, you can read it. I don't know whether we need to share it on YouTube and stuff like that. But, frankly speaking, it does not surprise me that the Palestinians are like, we got to do something. Because, and isn't it a tragedy in this world that you can't even comment about how aren't the Israelis acting a hell of a lot like the Nazis with the genocide policies for the Palestinians? And if you read like this guy's manifesto, this Smotrich, he wants to exterminate the Palestinians. Just do the research yourself. So it doesn't really surprise me. In fact, what's really interesting is sort of the hypocrisy from the United States, where they've even tried to go in and say, okay, you know what, let's make peace. Everybody calm down, relax, right? Just try and we even had like accords and stuff signed that we were going to try and like all get along. And they're just coming out and just shitting all over that. So, obviously there's a million different moving parts here. And some clown sitting on the west coast of North America and Canada, he's not obviously going to have the answers to any of this shit. But I will say, and the one thing that I said in the lounge is that my take on this is that we in the public probably only know about 1% of what's really going on underneath the surface of all this. It's just really, really tragic that the humans have to resort to murdering each other and blood spilt and death and destruction. And it's basically the same conversation as Ukraine. It's not really a hell of a lot of difference. I mean, within Ukraine, I saw this really funny article about Ukraine the other day where there was an arms shipment in a UK or in a Ukraine transport plane that caught fire and had to emergency land in like Turkey or Egypt or something like that. And there was this white powder all over the runway from some explosion or something inside the airplane. And any of the worker emergency crews and stuff like that, they all became like instantly numb. Their face numb, their lips numb, their fingers and their hands numb from just interacting with this powder stuff. And the manifest the cargo destination manifesto thing said that this plane was going to like Azerbaijan or something crazy, and this is a Ukraine arms shipment. I mean, what the hell's going on? And what the hell were they actually really shipping in that plane? So this is such a, yeah, exactly, AFA. So I mean, the worst part about us being in the public is that we're given just a very, very small snippet of what's actually really going on here. And for us to have the audacity to make conclusions, well, these people are in the right and those people are in the wrong, I think that's actually pretty naive of all of us. But, I will absolutely say it just breaks your heart when you hear that these damn humans, they just keep beating up on each other and murdering each other. And, like I said, you look at the policies of some of these people that are in charge. I mean, they're saying that half of the reason why Netanyahu is going after the Supreme Court and trying to dismantle the justice system in Israel is because the courts are saying, hey, you can't go and just steal these people's lands. So what the fuck is really going on? It's tragic, it's absolutely tragic. It really is. And like I said, I mean, some clown over in North America, on the West Coast of North America for that matter, barking on YouTube, is he really going to have any sort of clue of what's actually going on? I don't know. I mean, obviously I'm not. So all I'm going to say is, yeah, very tragic. The one thing that hopefully I can help you with is just understanding that a lot of times the 1%, the people that are in power, the people that are in charge, they will try and manipulate the masses to do one thing while they themselves are doing something completely different. And quite often, the 1% will actually be encouraging you in the public to be selling assets that they actually want to buy. Do they do nefarious activities that might even be borderline criminal or even maybe blatantly criminal? It would not surprise me one bit. Not one frickin' bit in this stupid world, which is tragic. But like my gift to you, and the only thing that I can really offer this world, is I will visually demonstrate a lot of this, because the great part about price charts is they don't lie. What's up is up, what's down is down. And ironically enough, what I have to do is try and train you to look at down markets as opportunities and look up at up markets as leave that shit alone. And hopefully you can buy into that concept. And then when assets do start to appreciate, like one of the names that we just so happen to be doing very well on currently is a perfect textbook example of exactly what we do at TRI. when those markets move up, you make a whole bunch of money. And, once you're sort of freed yourself from the slavery of this world, 9 to 5, punching a clock, basically hopeless future, politicians stealing money from you, right, left, and center. You can either do crazy thing like what this Beamish guy has done and try and say or change the world, make it a better place. And I will say that that's the one thing that this skill set has given me the opportunity to do is, I mean, keep in mind, I make no money out of doing any of these YouTube videos or anything like this. The only reason why I can do this is because enough of you sort of said, Brian, can you sort of teach me all this thing called the process that you happen to know? And you've come to TRI and seeked guidance. And I think we've changed a lot of people's lives for the better. Just simply teaching you the process. Chris, what do you think? Do you think we teach the process? Have you learned the process? Do you think you've learned the process?
I think that's exactly what we continue to teach. Yep, the process indeed is not easy. It's definitely a day in, day out activity, but definitely the process is taught here.
Good, good. I mean, that's what this is all about, right? So, does Brian have the answers to the world? Obviously not. Is Brian trying to make a positive difference in the world? Trying. Are there any guarantees in any of this? Absolutely not. And if anything, what I like to try and teach people and what I try to impart on people is that by definition, we are statisticians. All we do is we play statistics. There is no such thing as 100% in this world. It just does not exist. But if you can play the statistics, and there are even guys that actually go to Vegas and they just understand the odds and they literally gamble for a living, just playing the statistics, counting cards, stuff like that. Not really looking to win all the time, but when they see what they need to see, they go in and they win. And then they end up getting banned. Good part about the stock market, and even for that matter, the cryptocurrencies markets, is there is I better be careful with what I say here because I'm sure somebody's going to try and figure out how to ban me. I suppose all North Americans being excommunicated from places like Binance and stuff. That's probably one way the 1%, the bankster crooks, try and quote unquote ban us from participating in these markets that could potentially liberate you. But if you understand the process that we're trying to teach, and you understand statistical models, and you can build that edge, then you can go into the market and do this day in, day out. In fact, actually, it was kind of funny, kind of a side anecdote story. I remember years and years and years ago, I was flying down to LA to have a holiday with family. My family used to live in Los Angeles, and I took a plane down, and we had a stop in Reno, Nevada. And there was this cute little girl who was sitting beside me on the plane. And we got off the plane, and she was so excited to go gambling. And the irony of it all is that I got off the plane and I was kind of like, well, this is what I do for a living every single day of the week. And I know that the odds of me winning when I play the game are actually in my favor. And I know explicitly that the odds of me winning here in Reno or any sort of casino are actually against me. So what's the point in doing this? It's kind of a waste of time. So, but she couldn't understand that. So I watched her lose, I don't know, 50, $100 or something on the slot machines and stuff. But what the hell is anyway, so I don't know where I'm going with all that. Okay, on with our story. So what's happened in this past week? It's interesting to see how the US federal government is thrown into a bit of a tizzy here, where some of the more conservative elements of the US House of Representatives, and specifically the Republican Party, not overly impressed with the current Speaker of the House making a deal with the opposition to try and get funding packages through. So the political base said, to hell with you. You're going to make deals with the opposition? You're out of there, buddy. So they kicked him out. If anything, my interpretation, and this is what I sort of injected into the conversation when Chris and I were doing this write up a few minutes ago, was ironically enough, the markets absolutely love uncertainty. And well, that's not the right word. They love lack of political leadership out of political centers. Markets would prefer that the politicians were, what's the best word to use? Okay. I want to say, what's the term when a guy can't get a hard on? What's that called? Not inept, but something like that. Anyway, where the politicians just can't do anything. Nobody's in control, and it's just gridlock, and nothing happens. Impotent. There you go. Thank you, Sean. Not funny how I had a block on that word. I don't know why I couldn't remember that word. I could remember chicanery, but I couldn't remember impotent. Anyway, so I'm not shocked to actually see that the stock markets actually look like they want to rally here. I don't know whether I really believe this is a new bull market, or whether this is just nothing more than more counter trend rally off of the lows. But one thing I will say is our breadth indicator has been pointing down for about a month and a half now. And usually this indicator moves in about somewhere between about 6 and 8 week cycles. We've been running this indicator now live for the better part of a couple of years now. And I've seen this pattern consistently. And of course, when I used to run it on my old 1980s website, same thing. So it's consistent. And as you can see, we've gone through a really nasty bear cycle here. And this is a really, great tool for all of you guys to take and use. Of course, that's dependent, of course, on whether you want to actually subscribe to our product or not. It is a proprietary product that we sell on the site. On the weekends, we like to give you just a little snapshot of what it's sort of saying here in the short term. But there are a number of different elements to this. We also have the histogram. And a really cool rule of thumb is you should expect the world equity markets in particular to actually start firming up whenever you see the country funds get heavily overbought in the short term and heavily oversold. Sorry about that. Heavily oversold in the short term and heavily oversold in the medium term. This is an indication that the world equity markets are washed out. They ironically enough can't really go a hell of a lot lower. Now, the one thing that would lead me to believe that the US market was ready to turn is if we saw that same reading out of something like the S&P 500, which we don't. So I'm leery to call the bottom, because the S&Ps right now, you can actually see breadth is starting to perk up here a little bit here in the short term. This might actually be sort of like the start of the bottoming process. That's probably the best way to look at this right now. I mean, usually if I could scroll back over time, which unfortunately I'm not quite sure why, but it looks like unfortunately we lost that functionality. We used to have this super cool where you could scroll back over time. I'm not quite sure what happened to all that. I suppose maybe in the meeting tonight I'll ask Sjord what happened to that. But If I could scroll back over time through this, you'd see that usually these bottoms look like W's, right? So you can see how we've just made a V bottom here. We've rallied smartly because that was a pretty substantial rally on Friday. But at some point, we're probably going to have to come back down, test that low, and make a W, just like you hear Beamish saying all of the time. As well, too, you can see, interestingly enough, the indicator itself is sitting at exactly the same reading for both short and medium term, or in essence, consider this like a kiss. So they're coming up to kiss each other. Now, do we have to have a pullback away from that? I'm not quite sure what the market's interpretation of what's just happened there in Israel over the weekend is going to be. Keep in mind, tomorrow is a funny holiday session. Like I thought it was interesting. Typical, and I don't know, Canada just can't get out of its own way. But just Canada's doing some really stupid things right now. There's a bunch of Canadians in Israel right now, and they can't find any shelter because the Canadian embassy is closed for the Canadian Thanksgiving holiday. For fuck's sakes, get the goddamn workers in there, open the doors, and if there are Canadians in there looking for shelter, let them in, for Pete's sake. I mean, that's just dumb. But typical Canadian bureaucrats, right? Probably they were given instructions by substitute drama teachers to close the doors because we got to somehow find some money. Anyway, yeah, I couldn't believe this. Canadians stuck in Israel as flights are canceled, embassy closed for Thanksgiving. Open the fucking embassy doors, you idiots. Jesus Christ. That's terrible. Anyway. Oh, goodness. Anyway, so the point of the matter here is I frankly speaking, if anything, they always say don't get into the business of predicting the future. I haven't got a clue what's going to happen here, and nobody does. And if anything, it's probably good that we don't get into the business of predicting the future. So we've got sort of political turmoil in the U.S. Could you argue that maybe the Iranians are kind of stoking the fire a little bit there because they really don't want to see the Saudis and the Israelis make peace, which would put the Iranians behind sort of the eight ball with all of the sort of, Middle East hatred of the Jews? Maybe. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we in the West and with public, we don't even know half of what's really going on here. And I hear a lot of people saying that, oh, the Israelis got completely caught off guard. Yeah, right. I mean, the fucking Mossad knew about 9/11 well ahead of the event. Are you trying to tell me they didn't know what was going to happen here? Come on. I mean, that's just acting naive. Interestingly enough, through all of this, so I think we're going to have a bit of gridlock out of Washington. And in a weird sort of way, the international players, I think they're going to try and take advantage of that sort of vacuum of lack of leadership in the US. That might even be one of the reasons why it was decided to do this past weekend. With regard to the market, actually the economic data coming out of the United States and even Canada for that matter, although most of the jobs created in Canada were part-time jobs, they weren't real jobs. But the economic data coming out of the States right now is very strong. But it's one of these kind of funny reported headline numbers. The headline numbers are, jobs, huge increases in jobs. I think like you can see, I don't know whether Chris included it or not, but we had very, very big jobs number down in the States. Unemployment rate sitting, there's the Canadian number there. Actually, he didn't include the Canadian data. But interesting enough, you can see the Purchasing Managers Index for Canada released on Thursday actually came in much stronger than expected. Unemployment rate actually ticked down, and the unemployment numbers in Canada were very, very strong. So I don't see, and then you also see here US ISM Services PMI. coming in fairly strong. A reading above 50 means economic expansion, not contraction. But non-farm payrolls up 336,000. Market was looking for less than half that number. And it was kind of funny. I joked in the public broadcast on Friday that, again, this is a perfect analogy. Don't get into the business of predicting the future, because all the headlines heading into that non-farm payrolls number were, "Oh, the U.S. economy is in big trouble. Jobs are really bad. We're expecting really, really bad jobs numbers." And what happens? You get this monster report. And what was fascinating about this is, of course, the initial knee-jerk reaction was the market tanked, but I think that actually set up an incredible buying opportunity. And then when you actually looked at the options expiry and the where the 1% would ideally like the stock market to go out, it was just so cliche. It's embarrassing how crooked these markets are. So they tank the market right on the open, really ugly number. Get, of course, the public to just be freaking out, buying put options, especially with the advent of these 0 days to expiry options. So the public was going in there just circle jerking on the put side. And what do? They literally crank the market straight up, and all of the puts all expire worthless. And actually, we did quite a conversation about that on Friday. It's embarrassing how crooked this whole thing is. But the point of the matter here is very, very strong numbers coming out of the States. And I also heard, too, that they even revised August's numbers higher. So, and I even put out a tweet recently basically saying, if you're looking for the market to break here in North America, I'm very leery about substitute drama teacher economies, and I think that they will have their day of reckoning soon here. But I even said, if you're thinking about the U.S. breaking, and this was put out on the 5th, which was Thursday before that econ, I even said, and all of everything that I'm trying to teach students in the education program, everything I'm trying to, I try to impart on you people in social media and on YouTube and stuff. If you're thinking the US is going to break because of what happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that's looking backwards. Market doesn't work that way. You have to look forward. You have to not look at the past and say, well, you know what, because that just happened, that's the way it's going to be. That's not the way markets work. If anything, what you have to do is you have to look back like cycles ago. So where were we the last time Jupiter and Saturn crossed in a fear cycle? That was like the early 1980s. And how did that go? There was a gentleman that we teach in the level 1 program, because I love one of the indicators he built, Joe Granville, who in 1980, he used that same thinking that, well, what happened in the 1970s is what's going to happen in this coming decade. And he was like overtly bearish and calling for crashes in the early 1980s. And he was like literally laughed out of the market. And he became a meme. And yet he built some indicators like the OBV indicator, which are stunningly powerful. So I would say, if you want a historical comparison, look at what happened in the early 1980s. Being bearish then was a really bad idea. What happened in the 1940s? That's also a similar cycle period. Well, actually, the stock market actually did fairly well coming out of the 1940s, and it laid the groundwork for the 1950s, which was an incredibly, hugely bullish market. Now, is this a function of the banksters and the Great Reset and the way they've hyperinflated the money supply? And now they have to hyperinflate all of the assets in our society to catch up with that money supply increase? Absolutely. That is what all of this is about. And yet nobody in the public is talking about this, which I think is the biggest tragedy of what's going on in our world. Nobody is talking about this. Not a single fucking person. And it drives you crazy because it's so blatantly obvious what's going on here. And the banksters have pulled this off so perfectly that they just go, shiny object, look over here. You've got a little sniffle. So we better lock you in a cage and mandate that you must buy this pharmaceutical product. Oh, we're going to help the pharmaceutical industry? Great. Hyperinflation. Government's going to buy all of these little jabs for you. Ooh, shiny object over here. Some madman in the middle of Eastern Europe. We're going to poke and prod him to the point where he's going to literally shoot his entire country's future to try and defend some ideology that's long gone past. Shiny object. And yet, what's really going on here is Klaus and his great reset, and nobody seems to give a flying fuck about any of that. And yet, I think it actually explains most of what all this strife and anguish and angst that you see in the world right now. It explains all of it. And how we in the public have been fucked over once again. Yeah, Nick, totally. I mean, it's shocking how brutally, blatantly obvious it is, and yet nobody in the public seems to be able to clue in, other than 37, 38 people here. Nobody else seems to get this. I mean, it's great that we have our sort of hardcore TRIers, and I do know that we have a few hundred people that watch these videos on a pretty consistent basis, and I'm glad I got through to all of you. Hell, even talking to Zug's dad on Friday, I was trying to tell him, a hell of a lot of us here at TRI, we wear tinfoil hats, and he's like, "Yeah, okay, if you got to do what you got to do." So I don't know. I mean, at some point, I guess you just laugh at all of this, because if you don't laugh, you're probably going to cry. So the point here is looking for an economic crash out of North America, I think, is actually the exact wrong thinking here now. They've pulled off the con job. The banksters are in full control. And actually, there was one gentleman that I used to like interacting with on a regular basis. I don't really interact with him too much anymore. But he used to always say, this particular cycle celestially is actually known as a consolidation of power celestial event. And that is exactly what I think has happened here over the past 10, 15, 20 years. Is the bankster class, the Rothschilds, to a lesser extent, the Klaus Schwabs. I think he's just a minor player in this whole thing. The Joey Diamonds, the Chair Powell, who also I think is a relatively minor player in all this. They've successfully consolidated their power base, and there's not a damn thing any of us can do about it. Just suck it up. Anyway. One area of the market, though, that I think could be in a bit of trouble is anybody who is at odds with those people. This is why I don't think that this whole sort of international socialist movement, international communist movement, CCP, Vladdy over there in I don't know. Do we call it? Is it the Soviet Union again? It sure looks like he wants to try and reestablish that over there, which I doubt is going to happen. But anybody who's at odds with this bankster elite, this 1% ruling sort of elite class, deep state, whatever the hell you want to call it. Anybody who's at odds with these people, you're going to get 37 viewers. And you're going to like it. Oh, well, what can you do? So I wouldn't be surprised if actually there is a seed change within China. I wouldn't be surprised, too, if Winnie the Pooh, though, has sort of seen the writing on the walls, and he's taken a lot of steps to try and basically how do you say it? Isolate, insulate. I think that's probably a better word. Insulate himself and his country from this bankster elite. And actually, it was really interesting that just before the market broke, just before all this made up sickness bullshit and stuff, just before all this event happened, Winnie went to sort of head to head with Joey Diamond, and Joey actually went over to Hong Kong, and he publicly said that JP Morgan will be in Hong Kong far longer than the CCP will be in Beijing. And the interesting thing is, not a lot of people really picked up on that statement. But that, I think, was basically the declaration of war. And I might argue to a certain degree that basically these nations are at, and I don't know whether you'd say nation. Nation's a tough one. If somebody like Trump can get back into power, and these funny Republicans in the U.S. Congress can somehow wrestle control of themselves and get their act together, you might see the resurgence of sort of the Abraham Lincoln kind of, it was interesting that the bankster class, they made a fucking Broadway musical out of Alexander Hamilton, who was one of the biggest sort of bankster elite class kind of guys in U.S. history. And for the longest time, he was actually kind of vilified as a villain. But of course, the banksters came back into power, and they do things like they bankroll, Broadway plays about how wonderful Alexander Hamilton is, the Federalists, and all that nonsense. But there was a guy, Old Hickory, in the States who actually tried to pay off the U.S. debt. Because keep in mind, the banksters control us through debt. And look at my country. I mean, what a joke. Basically, the banksters now have these Canadian homeowners. The way that they've engineered it is that they will literally, for the rest of their lives, be in debt to these banks. What perfect slavery model. You couldn't write a slavery model any better. And these Canadians are happy about it. Oh, you're not going to foreclose on my home? You're not going to kick me out of my home, but you're going to amortize it so that I'm paying my mortgage for the next 80 years? I mean, give me a fucking break. What a con job. Down in the States, when they tried to do this in 2008, they called it, what they call it? Predatory lending. And they actually made it illegal. You can't do that. That's taking advantage of people. Here in China, well, I guess not. You want to, turn these people into debt slaves forever? All right, no big deal. And the worst part about the Canadian political system, it's based on this parliamentary system, not the way the American system is set up, is that, once this prime minister is elected, he literally becomes a despot, and there's nothing you can do. There is nothing you can do. Whatever fucking substitute drama teachers want, this is just like Castro taking over Cuba. Whatever, and no matter how stupid the policies were, whatever fucking substitute drama teacher wants, he gets it, because that's the way the system is set up. It's a bit embarrassing, really. Democracy, yeah, right. Sure. All right. Oh boy, there you go. There's a whole bunch of rants. I better get back on task here. Sorry, everyone. Okay, so all right. Should you be looking for an economic collapse out of North America right now? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Should you be looking for an economic collapse out of something like China? Absolutely. Should you see more shit come out of countries like Canada, Australia, Russia, South Africa, who are sort of international commodity proxies? And really, if you want to go buy hard assets and hide your money from the banksters and stuff, you don't want to be, you want to be invested in those kind of countries. And, for the first part of this fear cycle, Canada did very, very well. In fact, for quite a long period of time, the Canadian currency traded at a premium to the US currency. That's how well we were doing. Then you get the commies come into power, substitute drama teachers who have absolutely no idea how real economies really work. And the whole thing's gone to fucking rat shit. And now we're in a cycle where the whole point that I made about all of this originally was, do you think that the banksters who own the equity in these banks and own the equity in these houses and various different assets around our society, do you really think that they are going to voluntarily relinquish control of that ownership to some substitute drama teacher? I mean, come on. Let's use our brains here, people. There's no fucking way in hell they are ever going to let that happen, right? Just like Joey said, JP Morgan will be in Hong Kong far longer than the CCP will be in Beijing. And I think you can take that to the bank. How ironic. Knock on wood. Um, so, what I think is going to happen here is all of these socialist utopia dreams are all going to be unwound. And interestingly enough, I even put tweets about it. I find it fascinating. You look at something like China, and oh, gee whiz, isn't it interesting how China has a very similar chart pattern to China, China. Because I think that their fates are actually sealed. I don't think this is going to happen in the US, but I think it could very easily happen in the rest of the world, where the world sort of thinks, especially through that sort of vulnerable window that the US just had to go through because of its demographics and because of these super cycles and all that kind of fun stuff. Terrible cycle period. The Jupiter Saturn cross, Jupiter Saturn Pluto cross, the great what the hell do they call that? The when Pluto has to come around once every 300 years or something like that. They give it a very specific name in celestial land, but this is a very tough window here. But I don't think that the banksters are the ones that are and when I mean that, I mean I'm talking about like the money center banksters, the Joey Diamonds, the Jekyll Island people of the world. I don't think that they're in any trouble whatsoever, which is a very contrarian sort of thought. But I definitely think people like CCP, that idiot over there in Russia who's basically blowing up his country, I I have no clue how this whole Middle East thing soap opera is going to play itself out, other than a lot of innocent people are going to lose their lives, and there's going to be a lot of pain and suffering in this world. But I would say that the capitalists are going to do just fine through all of this. Thank you very much. Anyway, business as usual. And interestingly enough, I actually think from the market's perspective, maybe throwing a little bit of political unleadership, if you will, in the United States, I think actually that serves the capitalist purposes very well here. Interesting also too to see how the yield curve is trying to correct itself. If anything, what the powers that be in the states really want is they really want to see the long end of the curve really start to sell off in a weird sort of way that's going to kill industries that have enjoyed lower, longer term interest rates. So I think this whole sort of housing boom, that's yesterday's story. In 2000, and I remember specifically coming out of the dot-com boom, the housing stocks all they were the first thing that took off in like 2001, 2002, 2003. And I think they've enjoyed like literally 20 years of a fantastic economic backdrop. But I think that story's over now. I think that's yesterday. That's backwards thinking. And I think, this is just my opinion, that the bubbles that have been created in certain parts of the world, Vancouver, Toronto, a single family home is like 2 or 3 times a medium income for households. unsustainable, impossible, 80, 90, 100-year amortization for mortgages, political suicide. None of this is going to last. It will have to unwind. How it unwinds, don't get into the business of predicting the future. All I'll simply say is, don't trade your opinion, trade setups. And as you can see right now, Canada actually has a very well-defined bearish setup working. And it was actually funny. I actually went into one of the local banks here, and I told them that we actually had short setups working on his bank. And I was very comfortable with the idea of being short his bank. And I don't think I scored a lot of points with the branch manager that day when I said that to him. I noticed the customer service isn't really that great when I ask for some help there. Like, fuck you, you're short our stock, go away. So, trade your setups, leave your opinions at the door. And I hate to say it, but there's a lot of reason to be thinking bearish of China right now, which is kind of sad. Okay, so, but that's ironically enough, there aren't that many of you that are actually really part of China. Most of you are Americans or overseas and stuff, so that doesn't really affect you guys. And also, too, a lot of you are very crypto oriented. And I would say, it's interesting when you listen to people talk about crypto and stuff right now. I'm starting to hear the same kind of conversations that I always hear at the bottom of these cycles. It's all going to zero. It's all a fraud. It's all bullshit. You're going to lose your money, blah, 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 blah. And this week's sort of market of note, LOOM, really just a very typical example of playing this game where, back last fall, and actually maybe even well, yeah, I guess last fall, started to get interested. We started saying that, hey, we're putting the little old lady portfolio plan together. In fact, actually, one gentleman who just joined the call here, he's often in the Zoom call with me. He's a total boss, and he's going to be so fucking rich by the end of this cycle. All he got to do is just keep his nose clean. He's doing everything that he should do. The only thing is he can't lose focus and stop banging out doubles and stuff. But point here, very typical. You load up when they're basically giving it away. Somebody had asked recently, we used to use an old expression in the stock market. What is it that you're doing when you're speculating in the market? And really what you're doing is you're strapping on an asset and then you're riding that asset. It's on its own journey. Or think of it as I'm getting into this vehicle, this car, and I'm going to go for a ride. And let's see where this car is going to take me. So you could think of like a car as like getting on the freeway, and in a weird sort of way, actually I think I saw Shartoshi around the site. He loves to drive around the South Bay, going around clients in his Tesla. Half the time I wonder whether he's driving or whether the car is just driving and he's just following along. And he used to like to sit and watch my videos off of his big screen on his Tesla car and just let the car drive him around the South Bay. And he'd just sit and learn how to do fibs and banging out doubles and the whole damn thing, just while the car's driving around. And in a weird sort of way, that's actually a pretty typical, or not typical, it's a pretty accurate description of what we do in the marketplaces. For instance, this one, I don't know whether you can actually see this, it might be my bad eyesight, but does that look readable or is that blurry to you guys? I don't know. It kind of looks blurry. I don't know. Can I get any closer? I guess I can't. Guess I can go over to probably could go over to that Twitter page and show you that one. That might be a little clearer. Where are we here? So here's the chart. There you go. You can see a little bit better. So, I want to try and come in and buy assets that are cheap. And of course, I love seeing these things called W's on the price charts. That always gets me excited. And, just to give you an idea, could this thing have some sort of rally that actually gives me the ability to sell half of it if it doubles? Adam says he's listening while he's delivering groceries. All right. Yeah. Um, if you actually look at this from a bigger perspective, this is just happens to be what is this? Trex. I think I even said Trex. Well, I don't know whether you really want to be on Trex or not. Fucking Bitterx Bill. What a con job. Anyway, that's another conversation for another day. I don't think most of us, I suppose if you're overseas, you can be on Trex, but none of us in North America can. But is there any room for this thing to move up off of these crazy ass lows that you saw? Why don't we maybe see if we can pull this up over here? Hey, there's Binance. That's a little better. Can we get a better images here for you? There you go. Look at back in the 17-18 bull. Look at this thing went all the way up to 81 cents. So, and you can see where the base is. I mean, look at this beautiful long base down in here. And it basically just came. This was the 2021 bull, made its way all the way up to 20-30 cents. So here we are coming right back down against the bottom again, all that kind of fun stuff. So down here at like 5 cents, I said, is it realistic for this thing to pop up to 10 cents? And the key here is once you do sell half on a double, that means you get all your original capital back in your hands. In this day and age, of course, you better make sure to keep a little bit on the sidelines for Uncle Sam or substitute drama teachers because they're going to want their pound of flesh. And I wouldn't suggest fighting with those cocksuckers because they always win in the end. So the point here is if you sell, and of course you have enough to pay your taxes as well. But if this thing works its way all the way back down to the bottom, can you not just take that original capital and go and just buy the position right back? And then do it again and again and again and again and again and again. And I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm just going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over ad nauseum. That's the way you make money in this world, folks, is find something that works and just keep doing it over and over and over and compound your returns. And that's basically how this happened. It's the only way you can explain this. And the irony of it all is that we actually cashed out. And it's kind of funny because the boys all sort of redesigned the website. And I don't know whether I really like what they've done here or not, but this is their front page headline is basically there's Brian. What a handsome guy. Took $500, and the irony of it all is the ending balance came out to $320,721.66. And yes, taxes were paid on all of this crap. So probably the ultimate balance was actually quite a bit higher, but of course we had to pay a ton of taxes. So that's the only way you can do something like this is you just have to find something that works and then just keep doing the same thing over and over and over ad nauseum. There's no reason why you couldn't have this as 5,000 turned into 3.2 million. 50,000 turns into 32 million. It's the same logic. It's just, they're just numbers. So that's basically what this is, one sort of approach that I use. And actually, it's an approach that I used when I was a stockbroker. And it's what a lot of my clients did through the dot-com boom. The only problem with this approach, and you all have to understand this, is this kind of window only comes by about once every 20 years, where you get this just absolutely insane monster performance. I would say every 4 years, and if you can focus in on what's hot, like this was all done through the 2014 through 2018 crypto bull. And I actually think that was the cycle bull. But last cycle was all about DeFi. So if you could translate this same skill set into DeFi last cycle, you did exactly the same. And, guys like Sjord found names like Luna, before it blew itself up. He loaded up in the 50 cent area and we were selling it. The last sell half on a double order I got filled was in the $60, $70 area. I had another sell half on a double order sitting in the 120s. And of course, the thing topped out at 119. But the point being that, you want to get rich, you got to find what is particularly hot in that particular part of the cycle. And I'm not quite sure, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of what's going to be hot this cycle is probably going to be centered around this artificial intelligence. Sjord really likes names like that. Rend, RNDR. Hello is an interesting one that he likes. Anyway, come on the site. Every Tuesday, Sjord has his presentation for this site. He has about a half a dozen names that we're seriously invested in, and we'll basically do the same thing. I also am running an individual model. I have about 30 names that I've loaded up on that are just like more fun because I like to do the LOL portfolio. Here is my very short list. I'm trying to put this together so that we can show it on the website. The gentleman that I spoke of earlier that I think is going to get absolutely stinking rich if he just keeps on. He actually built this sort of interface. And of course, he's got his own plan. And I don't know, Eddie, how many names are you up to now? How many names do you have on your books? I've got about 30 that I've picked up here, and you can see them. And by all means, if you want to come on the site, I mean, you're more than welcome to know what names. You can see there is the LOOM that I showed you there a few minutes ago, already starting to bang out doubles and stuff. But you can see here's the list of names. And some of these names are actually total dogs. Like this VGX, if I'm not mistaken, they're in chapter 11 right now. There's this Ubik. Zug is never going to let me forget Ubik. But I got him to come in with me, and it's like fallen in half from where we bought it. But what the hell? I still think that into the next cycle, it'll do perfectly fine. There's Rune. This is another one that Sjord absolutely loves. That's another one of his good quality investment names. We have some serious money invested in those kind of names. And of course, I think, well, anyway, like I said, come on Tuesday and Sjord will give you his hot list. But this is my fun. This is exactly the same as what I did for this. It's identical. Exactly the same. And the only thing I have to remember to do is just keep banging out doubles and just, somebody was asking on the site, what does SHOD mean? And I don't know whether I did it on the tweet. But you probably have seen, like all of you regular viewers, you all know this. This is nothing new. This person was relatively new to the site, so he didn't understand what SHOD stand for. SHOD is just simply sell half on double, right? You buy it, sell half on a double, maybe may up that number a little bit so the tax man gets his cut. Then you get your original money back. And then keep in mind, this is a vehicle to get us rich. So we've bought into it. We've sold half of this vehicle. The rest of it, you could do nothing with it if you want. You don't have to sell anymore. And, if this pulls like a Luna and it goes 50 cents up to $100, well, that's what, 200x. No reason I can't do that on this thing. But what I really like to do is sell half on a double. And then when the asset comes back down to earth, I go and take that original capital and I go and buy another car, another vehicle, another way for me to get rich from trading. And as you can see, I haven't actually even sold my half on a double on this second car yet. I probably should. I'm a little bit lazy. We're doing everything in DeFi land now because these centralized exchanges and the way Big Brother's acting here in North America. And really, where's TBG? He and I need to get off our fucking asses and get down to El Salvador and set up an operation there. And just, I got to figure out what the hell to do with Liam. Maybe what I should do is, I don't know. You know what? You guys give me ideas. Like right now, the government sort of sets him up for about a $50,000 a year, roughly, budget to pay for his life. And if I could figure out a way to replicate that, then I should really get him the hell out of there. But anyway, Eddie, of course, been listening to me blabbing about this for years now. And I'm so afraid, right? To be honest with you, that's where it all comes down to is I'm scared as shit. Because it's such an immense responsibility to deal with a special needs person that is violent and angry a lot of the time because he lives just a shit life. Poor little guy. And I'm scared. I'm really afraid. That's what it comes down to is I'm afraid. Because if I take him out of that government program, there's no going back. So anyway, that's my own personal shit I got to deal with. But I would like to be able to have an account on Trex again. Sean, can you DM me and let's talk, dude? Anyway, it's got to be a way out of this fucking nightmare. And the problem is that it's just getting worse by the day because the socialism here, it's like you go to the grocery store, it costs like fucking $5-10 for a jug of milk. It costs like $5 for a half decent loaf of bread. And we all know that there's another big hyperwave inflation coming. I mean, what's the Canadian dollar going to be worth here? Is it going to be like $100? Is this Weimar Germany where the currency that you think you have is basically worthless? I could very easily see that happening here, folks. Seriously, Sean, PM me, and let's talk. I got to figure out an exit strategy for Liam and Spirit, whether it be JoJo. I miss you, sweetie. I sure hope you're doing well wherever you are in this universe. Joby, I miss you. James, miss you. It's funny how all three of them started with J. And I'm sure there's a ton of other people that have passed that I don't even know of that I miss dearly as well. But I've asked all of you, please guide me. I want to do the right thing here. Just tell me what I'm supposed to do. Anyway. All right. So the point of this is newsletter. Hopefully I've explained what a car is. Hopefully I've explained what sell half on a double or shods are. And really, this is your job. And you want to get rich at this game, figure out a very simple strategy. It's interesting on social media. If I had come out, and I did this last November, I came out and I said, buy Litecoin. We are heading into its halving event. There will be an opportunity to get free coins. And people laughed at me on social media. And I did exactly the same thing here today. Was it today or was it yesterday? This Syscoin, do you see how this image, look at that fucking W there. It's staring at us in the face, people. And yet, look at what the response is. Look at this. This MFer, this motherfucker, this guy here, I have no idea who this clown is. He doesn't even know me. I even said shill. You clearly don't know who I am. And if you don't want to follow me and you think you're being insulted by me talking to you, don't follow me. Get the fuck out of here. I don't care whether you buy anything. I'm not shilling. I don't give a rat's ass if you buy this or not. But I'm telling you, I'm going to be buying this. Well, I mean, I wasn't really insulted. This guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But just look at this price chart. Is this not the definition of buying low? Looking to sell when the public does this stupid stuff and bids this stuff up to the moon? And then, of course, I mean, look at where a double is. At 8 cents right here. A double is like right here. Is that even remotely realistic over the next few years? Given we know what's going to happen with happening events and all that bullshit and the way these 4 or 5 year cycles. And I mean, look at that W. It's staring you in the face. Couldn't believe that when I saw that, but here's another example. It's just sitting there. Will you people learn? Why is it we only have you would think that we should have like thousands of people watching this video. I mean, like it's just sitting there. And I'm trying to get the message out. It's interesting how many people actually read this tweet though, so that's kind of a good sign. Eddie wants to get baked. What is it? Eddie's always going on about crops. What the hell is it with you? You didn't find that funny? There you go. That's the Eddie I know and love. Give me a hello from Tanzania, sir. Big Connect! Give me a Big Connect. You got a microphone. I know you do. Come on, give me a Big Connect.
Bitconnect.
There he is. Oh, I love you, babe. You're awesome. Don't ever stop being you. Like, and Chris, what's your line? Eddie is? Come on, Chris. You can do it.
Hold on. That's Eddie.
I swear, one of the best times I've had in the hey, excellent, Adam. Vaca for the win. Great memories in Portugal, man. We had some great times there. That was awesome. That was so much fun. I can't wait till we can do that again. Vaca. Anyway, so the names are staring you in the face. I don't know whether you can actually pull the trigger on this shit. Can you actually, and this is what I said, are you ready, willing, and able to pull the trigger when no one in the public is even the slightest bit interested? And how ironic, typical public person, somebody comes out and says, this motherfucker's shilling Syscoin? Laughing my fucking ass off. And I said back to him, I couldn't give a rat's ass whether you buy this or not. I have no vested interest. There is no shill here. The question is, can you buy when you're supposed to buy? I don't know. If you can't, well, then you're just going to stay punching a clock. You're going to be Joey Diamond's slave. You're going to be sucking substitute drama teachers' penises for the rest of your life. You have to force yourself, if you want to break out of that slavery, to come in and buy when others are crying and sell when others are yelling. Can you do it? Well, that's entirely up to you. I can't, as Ross Perot used to always say, I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make it eat peanut butter. It's just simple as that. Well, this is an interesting one as well, where this is actually a stock. This is a, so if you're like, well, Brian, I don't want to take a chance in actually owning cryptocurrencies, I'm going to go and play this through the stock market. Here's one where you can get a better than 10x on an option spread trade. And this is actually one of our instructors, our level 4 class instructor, mentioned this in class yesterday. I mean, this is an incredible deal. And this is just playing a spread that we travel back up at some point to trade back up to this $35 level. What happens if you take the profits from the spread and you actually go buy some calls that maybe, heaven forbid, this thing, maybe if the spread trade works, you go and take the profits from the spread and you go and buy some deeply out of the money calls, maybe like the 40 calls, 50 calls. And maybe we do another move like this. That could make you like millions of dollars. I mean, you remember how those silly kids went nuts over like AMC. I don't know whether you guys were aware or not, but I was actually trying to get our stock pickers club to buy AMC. I even pitched the idea to the club to buy AMC at, see, you should be able to see it on the charts, eh? Right here. What letter of the alphabet is this? Staring you right in the face. I mean, would we have done well if we all loaded up through that bullshit, sickness, idiocy environment? Buying call options, buying the stock. Look where the fucking thing went. From like, what is it? It was like 10, 15 bucks all the way up to $300. If Mara does something like that, and you happen to have a whack of calls on the books that are free, they were already financed because this trade paid off, which is a really simple spread trade, and this thing happens to go to new highs, which isn't really unrealistic, and you're just going to use the profits from this trade to finance the deeply out of the money calls. I mean, it's just sitting there, folks. I thought it was interesting. Another example, this is in the stock market. Usually natural gas does pretty well when everybody is thinking about that Courtier guy, right? And I even said, we haven't had, I don't know whether you guys even remember that Courtier dickhead. He's such a fool. But, typical quote unquote experts, they always do things like get into the business of writing call options. And of course, the money is ridiculous. So they look like geniuses while it works. And then when the reality comes back to the market, if you want something from today's broadcast from a 35-year fucking veteran, never, ever write naked call options. Just don't do it. It's stupidity. Oh, yeah, the money's all just so free. And then what ends up happening? Natural gas is one of the most volatile markets possible out there. I mean, natural gas is like a widowmaker. It will destroy you. Look at what natural gas does in years gone by. This is, and of course, they keep rolling the ETF back as these people get destroyed. So this isn't really a good proxy on natural gas. You should probably just look at the natural gas contract. So, I mean, look at what this damn thing can do. Just out of nowhere. It just absolutely face rips. And I don't know, you tell me, what letter of the alphabet is there? I mean, you can see the writing's on the walls. And, and oh, by the way, what are we supposed to think? And here's your opportunity. Finally give you people over on YouTube a chance to interact. What are we supposed to think if we clear through a major resistance line and you're looking at a price chart for where this thing is supposed to go? Two words, they both start with the same letter. Let's see if anybody can clue into this. Are you listening to this idiot Beamish guy? If you are, and if you have, you know exactly where this damn thing's going. How long it's going to take to get there, that's another thing, but you know where it's going. Thank you, Nori, you smart-ass motherfucking son of a bitch. My German bodybuilder. No, even easier, Zoinks. Don't overthink this. Thank you, Adam. Look left. I mean, this is all open air here, all the way up to here. And here. That's the last time some fat cat said, no more up, you go down. Not nowhere in here. So, I jokingly said on like social media, this chart, this is a widowmaker. You might find just boop, all of a sudden, natural gas goes absolutely insane here. And oh, by the way, I'm long. I think I showed you on that funny ETF. And actually, we're long a bunch of funny. Yeah, there's the ETF. So you can see how it's just getting ready. Hell, look at the price caps right here. You can see all of my sort of barkings about where I think the market's going to go. I mean, there's Colin and his dump chaser zone way up top there. I mean, look left. It's the same shit, just different pile. So, I mean, there's so much money to be made out here. You just, can you force yourself? I mean, I don't. And the interesting thing about this one is I think some people actually thought, oh yeah, Beamish is saying go buy this now. Of course, there's no fucking way I'm saying buy this. You'd be an idiot to go and buy here. This is exactly what I'm trying to teach you not to do. Don't chase, don't chase, don't chase, don't chase. But you look at something like that CIS, and it's interesting, of course, you interact with people on the public and they're like, well, don't touch that thing. What are you shilling that? You're crazy, man. I mean, I don't know what the hell this thing's going to do down here, but it sure looks cheap to me. And just even there you go, dead cat bounce right there, all the way back up to 12 cents, 50% move just on a dead cat bounce. Wicks and tails like to be eaten. Look at the size of that wick right there, and then, just really simple fibs. I mean, my hunch is there's probably one more play against these lows. That wouldn't surprise me. But, what's 50% roll? WD GAN. Well, that's up at 16 cents. So this is Mr. Gann going to be proved right once again? Just keep it simple, stupid. So anyway, that's a name that I might be interested in participating in down here. Okay, so that's my rant about the charts of the day and all that kind of fun talk off of the newsletter. And hopefully that puts that into context. A little bit of Bitcoin review here. We're in a dangerous place, I think, on the price chart. So I definitely don't think Bitcoin's a buy here. If anything, this looks like it's got trap written all over it. On the weekly charts, not really a heck of a lot has changed. We are parked in a trading range. There's Mr. Fink and his I want an ETF low. This was through a seasonally weak appropriate time. And notice there's a big old tail on the charts here. In fact, you probably can't even see this now. There's so much writing on it. We'll just go a new layout here. So we'll just clean everything off. So talk fresh. Wow, look at that volume. Interesting. Something must have happened here today. So I would just throw up the simple chart here. What I think's happening here, just is my opinion, not really worth much, but sure looks to me like this should be some sort of head and shoulders. And interesting how, like, you can almost see the neckline is really kind of like just a line drawn off of that resistance line becomes support line, support line. So that's what I think is going on. Keep it as simple as possible. I also don't like the fact that, we're still up here, but notice the sort of participation in the market is slowly waning. So nice big chunky eye. Oh yeah, I'm a bull. Look at me, rock and roll. Then not so much. Yeah, I'm a bull. I'm gonna go higher, but I'm a bull. Wait a minute. What's going on here? Why are the bulls not buying as much here when they were buying lots here and they were buying lots here, which is basically the same price? If this was such a great asset, where the hell are the bulls? And now, this is getting a little scary because you can see they're really coming off here. And all of this move that we've seen here lately, it's on very, very light volume. So a little suspicious there. That's not an image that you want to see if you're a bull. And if you start applying all the technical indicators and stuff to it, and COBV is slowly trending lower, making lower highs and lower lows. We took out this key low here, so that's not a good sign. Something's not right about volume here. So the key there, though, is that this head and shoulders pattern is perfectly valid as long as price does not breach this high here. And then if we do things like reload zones going back up top, where are institutions likely to defend shorts? Oh, hello. What a surprise. So I would usually say that this is our reload zone from 61.8 up to 78.6. Then I would say that the venture cap reload zone, which actually works great for things like altcoins, probably also for Bitcoin too, I hate to say it, but something along those lines, I think you could make the argument that that is one hell of a level to keep an eye on. If I wanted to short Bitcoin, that's the area I think you want to take a stab at. But you can see that's up in 30,000 area. And here we are 27, 28. So that's still 10% higher than where we are right now. So also too, I have a general rule. I'm not really allowed to like consider this a buy until I actually see a W on the other side of this trend line. So we have up, and it looks to me like we could do some sort of like up, up kind of idea. And that's what, you know what they call this? They call this climbing the wall of worry. But what I'd really like to see, if this really is a bottom, is I'd actually like to see this go like that and then break out. So give me, a nice W in here. So I don't really have that. So I can't really call this a buy. What I would just simply say is that, this is a daily price chart, is that right now what they're doing is they are climbing the wall of worry. And if anything, we probably have a situation now where we actually have to get the public back long. Are they actually fully loaded up through this? I don't know. I don't think so. I think they got kind of spooked through here. Then, this rally came out of nowhere really fast. And then they just spent, a couple months just breaking everybody's heart. So now we're going through the process of, like I said, climbing the wall of worry. I just don't know whether I can believe that this thing is really going to break out here or not. And then also too, well, I think I'd probably just leave it at that. Keep it simple, stupid. I think in the short term, if you are quote unquote trading this, I think what's happening here is you have a trading range established. So, top end of the range, bottom end of the range. Wicks and tails like to be eaten. That's a huge tail there. So against that low, against that low, against this high, there's probably your support area. Then also too, if we zoomed in on this, we could probably go from here back down to here and, reload zones, all that kind of talk. It wouldn't surprise me if they did dip this thing back against these lows. Maybe quietly put in some sort of bottom down in here, and then if this thing's going to ramp up, away we go. My hunch is it's probably going to be zing, zing like that, because they're not going to make it easy for us. It'll be difficult. So yeah, as I had sort of said originally, weekly. There we are. Top end of the range, and actually I wouldn't be surprised if we resolve this range and just duplicated it to the upside. Candle body highs for trade location, that head and shoulders, left shoulder, right shoulder, reload zones against the original top. I wouldn't be surprised, to be perfectly honest with you, if they can work this thing back up into this area here. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. Then we'll see, if they can bust it out through the top here on new highs and good looking volume, and we have, half decent momentum and nice looking market structure to support the move, then all right. If it's just one of these straight up and then straight down, then we're probably going to do something like this again. And that might be the case, where we just grind higher and lower highs and lower lows, or, higher highs and higher lows defines a bull. And that's the way our consolidation looks. I'm leery to think that this thing's going to go straight up from here. I think probably the number one reason why is because of the cost of production conversation. And actually, we had a bunch of cost of production conversation on the site through the weekend in the lounge. Just don't know whether I can find it while talking to you guys. I did see another person had put out some interesting videos. I don't know who those guys are. Climate friendly Bitcoin mining with stranded energy, crypto mining, stranded energy. No idea who these guys are. It's always interesting coming on the site and seeing what people are chit-chatting about on the site. As I said, there was interesting conversation through the weekend about cost of production and stuff. See if I can find that. there are, anyway, probably a lot of this stuff is, I'm just sort of skimming through it just really quickly. But there was somebody who actually, hey, there's those two clowns. And this should, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if through this we find out some really, really nasty stuff about crypto. It's going to be tough for crypto to really rally in earnest in the face of that. All that stuff's got to get over, I think, in my humble opinion. Ah, darn, I can't find the cause. Oh, yeah, here was the options expiry stuff. Man, it was just blatant. So check out that in the lounge if you have a moment. If you haven't diarized and logged it, it was a good conversation we had. There's conversations about the yield curve, the bonds, et cetera, et cetera. No, can't find it. Damn. Anyway, you can see as the employment reports were coming out, I was blabbing away there. We were following that on Friday morning. I suppose just really quick sort of follow up to that conversation. I don't know whether I have these numbers correct, but a guy that I used to work with, we still have a little small account together. I don't know whether he's that interested in doing much with me in the future. I actually want him to go buy some of that UBIT because I think it's ridiculously cheap. But anyway, they came out with some new equipment that's probably going to be available in the spring, so it's not even really available now. But Shane had this interesting website, ASICsminervalue.com, that spits out sort of what cost of production numbers are, who's breaking even, who's making money, who's losing money, based on equipment. So it was interesting to see his take. He was the one who actually originally built this script on TradingView a number of years ago to try and help us understand cost of production. Interesting that if you are still running an S19, technically, I guess you are making money. The S19P, XP, 21, 21 Hydro, all that kind of, I think there's another Hydro in here somewhere. I like this area as a cost of production, which means that if we do actually get some sort of crash, which it really won't be, it'll be manufactured by Joy Diamonds and all that to get everybody in the public thinking crash. But if they knock this thing down by 50%, and you can even hear it now on CNBC. Oh, Bitcoin is a piece of crap. And look, it fell by 50% in one day. Oh, well, there's such crooks. It's all a scam, blah, 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 blah. You never, ever, ever hear, mind you, I don't really listen to them anymore because it's just ridiculous how blatant the shill is. Now, that's a shill site if I've ever seen one. But they used to always, well, no, I'm not going to say that. All I'm going to say is lots and lots of talk about sentiment and, Larry Fink and all that kind of nonsense. But very rarely do they ever talk about what value is in Bitcoin. So as a result, the public doesn't understand this conversation at all. But I could very easily see them bring the market down against these lows. And all it will be doing is just bringing the price down into sort of the big players' cost of production numbers. Yeah. All right. So I think I talked to this part of the newsletter. Daily, weekly, monthly. I do these tweets out. If you want level references, I think they work pretty good. We had recently talked about how, that Peter Fink bottom probably was going to be a bottom here in the short term, this low. And indeed, that worked out really well. I would also say, too, candle body highs for trade location, reload zones. In fact, actually, if you look at the lower time frame, the 4-hour chart, I've got 3 different, very realistic, and of course, this is on the tweet, so you can access these and jot these levels down. Brian's favorite fib, Foggenbaum minor constant, 4.669 is his major number, but 2.618 is a pretty important number. And of course, our 9,999 times out of 10,000, markets love to reverse off of 1.618, alt A, B, C, D extension levels. So you've got 3 different very realistic price objectives all up top here. So if we do resolve this trading range, and as I said there a few minutes ago, where is support? If you wanted to be a buyer, notice how when I zoom in, That happens to be the POC. So there's clearly a lot of people who have a vested interest in the story around this 27 and change level here in the short term. And then if you actually look at the entire range, you notice that that's the top of value. Again, there's that big node. So could they slam the market down into these lows? And if so, and if you're a lower time frame trader, that's what you probably want to be hunting for to set up an entry. And then, if we do things like we'll set up a bot setup off of this whole range. So did I correct 33%, but no more than 66? Let's maybe make these numbers maybe a little thicker so you can see them. And reverse. So there is 33. So if we did come down into that level, that would be perfectly logical. And where does that project? If we bought out here some sort of base, it would have you going long from, yeah, that makes sense. You can even see how the market's trying to set up W's off of that level now. So it probably would have you trying to get long from about 28, we'll say, and looking to take profits. Oh, what a surprise. Right up at our 30,500 area, right into the 78.6, 2.618, 1.618, blah, blah, blah. So if you want to trade this, those are probably the levels I'd want you to sort of keep an eye on. So through the site and through the week, I'll be watching to see if we can get 3 higher lows, especially with that huge tail like that. Don't be surprised if we get some, maybe the reaction out of the stock market from what happened there in Israel. Maybe we get like a flash dump or something into these lows. Everybody's thinking crash, and then the market turns around and ratchets higher. So that's sort of what I'm thinking for Bitcoin. Right now, I think it's probably a little early to get too uber bearish. We do have basically a big fat doji on the weekly charts. We might puke out here. And if we do, and we lose this huge tail low, then that will turn into a big fat double top. You wanted to trade that? Okay, but I might suggest that maybe because this range is so huge, if that double top does come in, maybe hunt for something like a counter trend rally back against these highs. Like let's say we dip down into say something like that. We get a nice little reload zone counter trend rally into that level. Oh, what a coincidence. What once was support becomes resistance, becomes support, will become resistance again. But that whole conversation is predicated on us breaking down and confirming this M and then counter trend rallying back up into a potential trade location. So I don't see this happening. If it does happen, then we'll react to it when we get to that point down the road. Right now, I would just be looking for some sort of consolidation to set up our next leg higher. So that's what I'd be thinking. Okay, hopefully that speaks to the Bitcoin part of our newsletter. So we covered the basic sort of political craziness, a little bit about the econs and how strong the North American economy is. Talked a little bit about, just briefly, FTX and all that crazy scandal. Obviously can't weigh in on any of this sort of legal crap that's going on there. It'll just play out the way it's supposed to play out. I'm a numbers kind of guy. And then also too, what I would strongly suggest is just be careful around this holiday weekend. Don't read too much into tomorrow's price action. It is like a holiday in countries like Canada. Thought it was hilarious. If you are in Israel right now and you're freaking out and you're a Canadian, too fucking bad. Sorry, we're closed for Thanksgiving holiday. What? This world. So keep in mind there are a lot of people that are on holiday right now. So just understand that. You might actually get some really screwy shenanigans in the Bitcoin market. Gave you an idea to chew on in the altcoin space. That little Syscoin, and I've always liked the Syscoin guys. I always thought they had a good heart. I remember listening to them back in 15, 16. And I like their attitude. They were good. So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with them, but I always like them. No guarantees from the management. I'm in here as a speculator, just like all of you. No idea what will happen. And I noticed that, there's a lot of these names that have big rallies and they've come right back down to the bottom. So can you participate? I don't know whether I would buy any of this thing here. It just happens to be on the screen. But yeah, I think my treat for this broadcast is going to be this Syscoin. We'll also take a good look at this KMD. He's coming back down into bottoms as well, although I don't really like that action just yet. Oh, Loom. Yeah, well, yeah, I can't buy that Loom now. It's gone. I really like this link, man. This link looks like it's about ready to go, but I don't know whether I would buy it there. I'm already long from down below. So, and then of course Eddie, because Eddie is so awesome. He's spitting out ideas every day of the week, and I tell you, this Eddie guy, he's going to be one of the guys who makes a fortune this coming cycle. Yeah, what a surprise. All these Romanians. The Romanians, I think, are the best crypto traders out there. But look at that chart. So this is a chart Eddie's barking about. Now, you should see everything on this chart that I was talking about. I mean, can you see the little W here? This is like that Syscoin breaking out. And people are going, you're promoting this shit? What are you, some shiller? Oh, we don't give a fuck whether you buy what we're talking about or not. We're buying it because we want to make money. Now, would I come in and buy that there? No. I mean, you know how this goes. I'm going to just basically draw my reload zones. And if I can get a dip back down into the bottom ends of ranges against the original bottom, I'll be a buyer down here, but I wouldn't be a buyer up here. Same old, same old. And then Eddie's saying, look at the weekly chart, you doofus. Yeah, I mean, it's a good, hey, there's nice weekly W's. I always tell you guys, weekly W's. So it sounds to me like Eddie bought the punch, drinking the punch, bought the Kool-Aid. Look at that. I mean, can you see how Eddie's going to be so stinking rich here? Ah, sickening. Eddie, if you could do me a favor and just put a couple bucks aside for Liam, he'd probably really appreciate it. You should get like a little side account. You know what? I'm going to take $10 and I'm going to buy like 10 cents worth of everything that I buy for my account. And I'm just going to earmark it for Liam. So when your account goes to $100 million, then, hey, Liam's got $1 million. He'll thank you ahead of time. All right. Thank you very much, sir. Your glass is always half full, man. Or is that a glass of scotch? I don't know what that is. All right. So gave you a couple crypto names. Here's a treat from Eddie. I mean, we're equal opportunity employers here. So we're not discriminatory. We gave you a name in this stock market that's crypto oriented. This is for all the options aficionados. So you can't tell us we don't give you ideas for you to chew on. I mean, I don't know whether I'd buy natural gas right here, but I love natural gas down in here. But then maybe that's the smell of my farts that I love. I don't know. And unfortunately, I can't buy Bitcoin there. I just can't. Sucks. I know you want me to say I can, but I can't. So anyway, it is what it is. Okay, 20 minutes to go here. Had a few, don't think we had any questions on the AMA document though, eh? I guess we can put away the Bitcoin cost of production chart. Gave you 2 or 3 names in the crypto space to chew on. So anything you guys can't say you didn't get ideas from watching this broadcast today. Where is AMA? Anything in here? Nope. Big fat nothing. Well, there you go. Either that means Grim is doing an absolutely awesome job as our level 1 instructor, or we're doing an absolutely horrible job. I'm going to assume it's the former and not the latter. Anyway. I think as we had sort of said, keep an eye on the markets. This is October. And of course, how does that go? Buy when it what? And does it usually start to snow in October, November, December? Is this the time of year that maybe we should be thinking about if we're going to be making some investments? Maybe we ought to think about making those investments. So it really shouldn't surprise us to see the breadth indicator where it is. Yeah, and Eddie says you have about 2 to 3 months left. And then once that's gone, it's gone. So can you get your, as we had one lady on the site. I always like it. The ladies, they try and keep me out of trouble. Maybe not swear so much, Brian. It's bad for the kids' ears. Anyway, Kat used to always say, do you have your skirt together? Get your skirt together now, you people. You better do it now. Because, I mean, the irony of it all is that this stuff just starts lifting. And if you miss the boat, you miss the boat. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't hit the rewind button. And, you know, you can see Eddie's name. It's starting to lift. Look at the volume coming in. Look at that OBV study. That's exactly what we want to see. And he's got a whole bunch of names that anyway, I mean, hell, we could probably, that might be an idea, Eddie. Maybe you and I should just do a show one day, a public service show, and just go through all the names that we've been accumulating just for fun. Might be. And, Eddie does these incredible spreadsheets. He's so smart. Can I kiss his ass a little bit more? Jeez. Did you know that when you kiss Eddie's ass, it tastes like ice cream? Just kidding. Anyway, Eddie puts together these spreadsheets. Look how pretty they are. Gets all his sell halves on double orders all working and shit. I mean, the guy is fucking smarter than a whip. What's that, TBG? I don't know what that means. Did you hear me? I was barking at you earlier. You and I got to get down to fucking El Salvador and maybe just get a fucking condo or something down there and just get an operation up and running. He's driving. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Where do we go next? Okay, so no questions. That surprises me. Let's head on over to YouTube. Let's see if there's anything over there that we need to talk to. Okay, we were gonna get that tipping system going again on YouTube, but we've never been able to do it. I don't know whether it's YouTube keeps sandbagging us, but it sure would be nice to get that thing back up and running. A little frustrating. I think maybe I'm gonna just take the initiative on my own and just see if I can get it set up for my own stuff. Okay. All right. Yeah, we were talking about Mike and his presentation. Totally awesome. Too sensitive topic, or you'll be called anti-Semitic. Yeah, you're right. Totally, Nico. Incredible. And incredible how they have the machine so perfectly fine-tuned, eh? Nick says, duality creates reality. We have many loving, intelligent humans. And on the flip side, some that love stupidity, death, and destruction. Yeah, you're right. Sort of like this universe is probably actually equal balance between good and evil. And it probably has to be literally a 50-50 equation. There has to be in this world exactly the equal amount of good and evil. Kind of like how the Koreans and their yin and yang kind of thing. Canadian presidents and Nazis, LOL, now Palestinian versus Netanyahu. If you look at last century maps, Palestine used to own 98% of land. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's almost tragic. And what's really scary about Netanyahu and all his cronies is they are talking as badly as any Gestapo with their reference to the Palestinians. It's exactly the same. It's shocking. You would think, of all people in the world, you would think that somebody would say, hey, didn't all you people just go through this? But what's shocking about the situation in Israel is that the European Jews are just as racist as anybody else against the African Jews. They are incredibly racist against African Jews. It's shocking. So what a fucking can of worms that all is, eh? Okay, let's see. White magic powder. That was from that Ukrainian transport plane, eh? Awfully suspicious there, eh? Sean says, BB, if you get a chance today, would you discuss or show a chart or assets we can track to follow or use as a proxy for real estate in the US? Oh boy, that's a tough one. You know, actually, the one that I'm hearing most that I really like is that Case-Shiller index. I don't know whether you guys have ever seen that. Because if I understand correctly, they take inflation out of the equation. I don't know whether you guys have ever heard. There was a video that I watched recently that explained this. And I really like this thinking. And if anything, this is scary because it basically shows that the bubble has completely reflated in the US. Is this it? Case-Shiller National and Composite Indice SA. Yeah. So you can see we've actually gone through, and this is like 2021. So this was even just as the sickness was getting going. I think this might be even, yeah, this is updated. So you can see what the sickness and all that money printing did. It's just disgusting. I mean, they've hyperinflated everything. And the problem, and this is why I think this is actually a really good tell that this is the end of this move, not the beginning. So we have to go through some sort of period like this. But the interesting thing about housing, and actually that George Gammon guy, he did a pretty good talk on this. You notice, look how long it took for housing to go from peak to trough. That's like literally almost like 5 years. So this thing's not really going to quote unquote crash. It's just going to slowly erode over time, step by step by step by step. And you know, and you already start hearing that there are a lot of the bubble sort of parts of the U.S. housing market, things like Nashville, and like there's some cities in Texas. Why the hell you'd ever move to the middle of Texas, I don't know, but they were going through a bubble, and a lot of that house inflationary price pressure, it's all dissipating. So they're actually unwinding the bubble. It is happening as we speak. Which is a good thing. That's what's supposed to happen. Is you got to get rid of this nonsense. These asset prices should not act like this. What's really scary is a country like Canada, where the bubble can't deflate because the entire political mechanism, in fact, the whole fucking country, its whole economy is all based on housing because the leaders are trying to destroy what underlying economy Canada really is, because historically Canada is known as a commodity country, and fucking Klaus and substitute drama teachers and shit, they're hell-bent on destroying the commodity industry. Why? Probably because the whole damn thing was hyperinflated because of the whole China build-out. It was all a fraud. I remember years and years and years, they always said that high-grade copper prices should trade between 60 cents and $1.20 a pound. And through that whole China bullshit nonsense, fucking whole cities being built, and of course, half built. You actually go into any of the buildings, they're not built. There's no electricity, no plumbing. It's all a fraud. It was all copper went up to $3-4 a pound. And what's scary is that the industry experts in Canada came up with all the reasons why copper should be $3-4 a pound when it should have never been that way. That was a bubble. And I mean, I don't know how long it's going to take. I think what ends up happening is, and this is my sort of conversation about things like the M2 money supply, is I don't think that these kind of things are going to crash. But if you look at an image like this, just think of this in simplest terms. What's the easiest way for them to unwind the problem here? Is they just have to get this back to trendline growth. That's what they have to do. Like this kind of growth, that's unsustainable. What they really have to do is they just have to get this back to that is trendline growth. So do we have to go through a period like this to get back to trendline? I think so. So what you're going to find is that, something like housing probably does something like that for a while. Hell, it might even just do something like that. And then you get some big thumping in 2027, 2028. Could very easily be the case. So this is what's scary about Canada, is that the entire economy, everything about this place is built on this idea that the housing market will just never stop going up. And that is a fallacy. That's just asking for trouble. Anyway, who knows when it's going to unwind. I think 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, I think that's our day of reckoning. And boys and girls, it's going to be ugly. But thank heavens that's not today. That's, a good 5 years from now. So hopefully we can all make a pile of money on this coming crypto run and this coming probably bull run in risk assets, like that Mara kind of idea. There's tons of money to be made on this. So let's go make a pile of money. Let's go buy our place down there in fucking El Salvador, maybe an island just off the coast or something. And let's disconnect before 2027, 2028. Word of warning to all of you. The end of this decade is supposed to be pretty damn ugly. Okay, so I don't know whether that helped answer that question, but I'm having fun here. So what the hell? Let's see, where was that? Oh man, you guys have been talking a lot over there. All right. So Sean, I hope that helps. Could you also kindly do an analysis of symbol W, Wayfair? Well, you can do quick. It won't be too in depth. Is that? I guess that's a stock W. Wayfair, boom. Let's see what you got here. Of course, you know what kind of. Oh, that's not bad. I mean, you're coming in at the bottom end of the range. I have no idea what these guys do. Nice W's, so that's encouraging. Probably also, if you want to try and time your purchases, this is where things like reload zones help out a lot. So you can see where the bottom is. So we can go boobity boo. There is the reload zone. Notice that the original double bottom, boom, right there, happens to line up with Brian's favorite fib. We could also do really quick Feigenbaum's chaos theory. So that's going down there, and 4.669 also lines up. I'm getting the impression the market likes this level down in here. We could also do things like AB equals CDs, and that means we can do things like 1.618 and all that kind of fun stuff. So bearish bots, we can go bot setup. So 33, 66, one high, two highs, three highs. Ooh, it looks like this is a short. So let's see where this thing told you to go short and where you want to take some profits. So there is the top. And we'll go bot trades and we'll flip that around and we will go boom and boom. Oh, look at that. God, it's incredible when you see that happen. I don't know whether you can see that or not, but the M top developed right on that 25 level. So clearly this trade was set up by the market. I might say that any kind of bearish structure below this trend line would be a sell. They didn't give you much, but this is a Joby gap setup, but I do like that bot level there. And so its target is right at 47.97. Also too, 1.272, that's a popular alt ABCD level. And there is that 99,999 times out of 100. If we go down to 1.618 alt ABCD, market reverses off that level. And notice, is this a coincidence? I don't know, but notice there's a huge hole in the chart, big old gap right at that level. Coincidence? I think not. Also, too, you could draw a nice trend line off of these lows, so something like there to there, and look at that. So if you want, what I would say is this is your value window down in this area. So if you are a value shopper, you want to be hunting down in there. And if you want stink bids and I'm a cheap ass and I want to get an absolute bargain, and rock bottom prices, then you're bidding down here at around $30. So hopefully that helps. Nice looking chart. And then, momentum in the short term, bearish bought. I would imagine this is just working itself away. I don't see any reason to be bullish here yet. No bullish divergence yet. You can see a potential one building, but nothing yet. Willie is stupidly oversold, and you can see the market is trying to bottom, but nothing really solid yet, right? When this thing has actually W'd out, and you see things like the moving average on RSI is pointing up, maybe we actually get some actual buying volume interest, then rock and roll. But until then, meh. I mean, it's 57 now. I think you could easily bid 45. And as I said, really 30, 32, $33 right into a huge gap right there. That probably should be filled in. 32.90. What's that low? Where the hell are we here? 36.22. 31, excuse me, 31.29. That would be absolute bargain basement cheap prices. So I will throw that in the lounge, whoever asked that. Oh, can I not do that? There we go. There is my chart. So there's the levels I would be interested in shopping for. Okay, so Sean, you got yourself an awesome deal. Didn't cost you a penny for all that. Now do with it as you please. 70K jobs were government jobs and 150,000 jobs were part-time jobs. Yeah, maybe a bit. I noticed in Canada, tons and tons of part-time jobs. Quinn says full-time jobs went down 22,000. Interesting. And if one person got 2 part-time jobs, they count as 2 new jobs. Yeah, good point. LOL, Brian gonna be banned. Truth bombs, yeah, of course. It's funny how quiet a few conspiracy theories have come true the last few years. Yeah, tell me about it. Right. Could China and US really be that bad of enemies, considering China is one of the largest US bond holders? Well, they are and they aren't. I mean, I think that the Americans did a deal with the devil back there in early 2000 to save their economy. I also think that the war with Iraq and Afghanistan and all that nonsense was completely manufactured. Could they have some sort of covert deal? Maybe. But I wouldn't be surprised the way that Winnie has taken over here. In a weird way, I think he's trying to break all of that. What I will say about China is it's basically a mafioso. So, if you look at the mafioso the wrong way, you're dead. High stakes poker. That's what I would call it over there. And the value of life is extremely low there. Yeah, a substitute drama teacher wants to regulate podcasts now. Isn't that incredible? Jesus, son of a bitch, eh? Being from a country that has birthed democracy, my country state is ironic. All right, not sure where you're from, Zero Max. Meaning crash and burn, question mark, question mark. I'm listening while I deliver groceries. ORAI looks nice on weekly. Oh shit, look what time it is. It's 1 o'clock. All right, guys. Don't mean to be rude. Didn't really get through too many stuff. I did look at that Wayfarer though for you, Sean. So if anything, you reaching out and suggesting I could relocate Liam to your ranch, maybe that was fate. Why I looked at that in particular. I'll circle around for the daily brief request. Like I said, I did speak to that person who asked what a SHOD was and what cars are. And in tomorrow's after party, I'll circle back around to the daily brief requests and we'll address those. Did see quite a bit of you guys posting and chatting there on YouTube, so I thought I'd take a look at that. All right, Alexandru says, hi, Brian. I send to you only good thoughts to you and Liam. Let me know, is it not too much to ask you if you have time to look at Digi and storage? I don't know whether you're a site member though. You sound familiar. I tell you what, I'll do both of those for you tomorrow on the after party, and we'll take a look at those since you asked so nicely. In fact, I'll even put it in the DB request. DGB and STORJ for, and I'm gonna have to cut and paste your name because there's no way on hell I'm gonna be able to spell that phonetically. Where the hell did it go? Alexandru, cool name. Constantine. I don't know that I have that right now. Anyway, all right. So I will look at that tomorrow in the after party. All right. Enjoyed listening. Awesome. So if you could hit the like button, subscribe, ring Colleen's bell. Hope Colleen's doing well out there. If you are listening, maybe drop us a line, Colleen. Let us know you're still hanging in there. Best wishes for me and Liam. Of course, it is Thanksgiving. And sadly, Liam and I are just out on our own in this world. So we're probably going to go to Denny's and have a Thanksgiving meal together. That's about the best I can do for him. No way I could cook a turkey on my own, that's for sure. I was kind of hoping that we would be living in Portugal in a nice little chateau in Porto. God, I still dream about that place. And us having big group holiday meals together, but that never came to be. But maybe, fingers crossed, we can all make enough money. And TBG, you and I maybe are going to go down and we'll do it in El Salvador or something. Who knows? Anyway, wish us the best of luck on the road to Liam and I. And I appreciate, look at all those awesome best wishes. Thank you, everybody. Slow and steady wins the race. PMA for the win. Remember what your number one job is. Don't take no wooden nickels. And of course, best wishes to you and your family. Do you have your skirt together? If you do, I think opportunity is knocking on the door. And interesting too, how absolutely crazy nutso this world is getting right now. And in a weird sort of way, you have to be able to step in and buy, and you have to have the firepower to be able to buy in that kind of environment. And then when everybody's, oh, everything's so awesome. Look at this asshole on Saturday Night Live. He's so smart. He's billionaire. Oh, I got to go buy his coin at 75 cents because it seems like the right thing to do. That's when you got to be selling, right? You all know how that goes. All right. Have yourselves a great day. PMA for the win. I'll give you a double salute. The only thing left everybody say is bye for now.